Will, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thank you, Mark. It's nice to be here.
How is your festival going?
It's going great, Like, we arrived yesterday, it was really wet, and today it's very sunny.
It's a massive contrast.
I don't know how to predict this weather. It's bizarre, isn't it?
It is absolutely insane. But welcome to the Mark and Me podcast. And what I do on this episode with all guests, I love to take it right back to the very start. So I'm really intrigued when you were growing up, that first album that you remember buying, maybe with your pocket money, or your family maybe gave you a CD or something. But you remember listening to that album and just falling in love with music.
Yeah, I remember buying Master Reality by Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Because my neighbor had Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
And I went to a place called Reflex Records. It was near where I lived. It was one of those, but back in the, do you remember when there was loads of CD stores everywhere before?
Back in the day.
Before the bad days, the bad times. And I loved it so much, it became very personal to me. I think that happens to everybody. It's the magic of owning physical music. And but like looking through the lyric booklet and kind of feel like you had something tangible that kind of relate to the band.
I say this to every person, how much I used to enjoy reading the lyrics, the photos, smelling that paper that was made for CDs. I'm really enjoying the fact that maybe if I spent £12, I would then have to justify to myself I'd spent hard-earned money, like pocket money for doing a paper round. I need to love this album. So even if it's not a great album, I would listen and listen and listen. Early Silverchair records, Bush, Green Day, I would absolutely absorb it because I'd spent my money and it had to be a sacrifice.
100%. Like I remember buying records, buying a few at a time, buying 3 records, and then having I was going to get my money's worth out of this.
Of course.
And you're going to digest it in a way that you maybe don't do so much these days.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, but probably for worse. But in terms of having something that you really care about, and also with a lot of punk records, it was going through the bands they thanked and finding more bands that they. So say you were buying. I remember buying Good Morning by Alkaline Trio.
Yeah.
And going like that sort of thing, going through the thanks list and going, oh, so who they thanked, who what's like this, what can I find?
There was no Spotify suggests. It was hard work that you'd have to go and find out. And that's incredible because you listen to these bands like Alkaline Trio and then they recommend Thrice or they recommend Jimmy Eat World, and then it's like, you've helped me fall in love with my next big love.
Well, you develop your palette that way too,
exactly.
and what you care about musically. I think that these days it's a bit of a lost art, sending away for a CD on when like drive-through records used to do those, they come with a little kind of mailer or whatever inside, and you had to send off for the records as well. I remember that feeling of feeling really important and tangible, and music being more than something you listen to for 30 seconds and then skip.
People are listening now, being like, these two granddads.
I know.
What the hell are they talking about? CD? What the fuck is that?
Remember those? Yeah.
But live music is where you can't get that, so it's a nice thing that you actually, nothing can change. They can't take that away from you. And I love the fact that live music can affect people in so many different ways. What I'm really intrigued, your first major gig that you went to, where you thought to yourself, I want to do that. Like, I don't want to go and work in an office. I want to be that guy on stage.
Well, I never really had that experience because I never saw myself as a musician when I was younger. I saw myself as a fan of music. No.
Wow.
I saw myself. The first gig I ever went to was in 2001, and it was the Ozfest in Donington Park, and it was headlined by Black Sabbath with Tony Iommi.
I was there.
You were there as well.
Foo Fighters, Tool, Sabbath.
So it was, if I remember, Slipknot, Sabbath. They had Disturbed, Amen, and all that. There was
Cold Chamber on the smaller stage.
Cold Chamber as well. And the first time I came here was the year after. When we had it was Ozzy headlining and Cradle of Filth played. But I never saw myself as a confident enough person to find a band when I was younger. It was just not the way I was really. I had a really bad stutter when I was younger, and I just never saw myself doing it. I kind of fell into through love of listening and love of being a listener and somebody who digested music. I was somebody who was a big fan of it, but I never saw myself I could never have imagined that I would be on the journey I am, led me to doing this.
How did you find the confidence to always keep telling yourself, like, I'm going to overcome this, I'm going to make sure that, like, this isn't an obstacle that stops me achieving my dreams?
Well, I lived a weird life, where I think that originally I wanted to make films because I never wanted to be, I didn't want to be seen a lot.
You could be hidden behind the camera.
Yeah. I would love to have been someone who, and I still sometimes long for that now, where it's not as much about me, and not because it's not a selfless thing. I can talk forever,
of course,
and you can tell right now, but but I never. I didn't like the idea of constantly being viewed and judged on how I looked and all those things. And being able to speak on stage was very difficult for me. I had to slow down. To this day, when I'm on stage, I slow down the way I talk on purpose because I fall over my words. And even though I got over my style and stuff, it's still very difficult for me. And it's a challenge kind of I live with. But I never saw myself, I want to be a rock star. I came from DIY punk and punk rock, and I filled in for a band, a singer who was, they were kicking out, and then he was like, can you sing at this show? And I did, and then it kind of rolled on
history,
from there.
Yeah,
it was an accident, you know.
Do you realize, being able to take a step back, especially as an external source and not being in a band like yourself, that you guys are on a real fucking huge growth? Like, I'm not just saying this because you're here. We had this conversation with Darren and Scott before. You're a band I put as a second stage headliner in the next couple of years. I truly mean that, my friend. Like, the hype and the build, especially James from Arctangent and 2000 Trees, you're his favourite band. Like, you are going to elevate at a scale, I think, that you're not prepared for.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean it.
I don't. The thing is, I think a lot of the time when you start these things, and for me, it's always been like an art project, and I try to see it as such. So, like, to me, like a song is king, and the thing you're making is always what it's. That's what the victory is when you walk away with something that you really love. Some of the things I find very difficult, I find touring very tricky, especially as I get older. Like, it's a real mental gymnastics you do to get through those things. But I really appreciate that, and every time everything like today, like when everything's gone well, and you walk away from it, you can go, I'm really proud. Me and my friends have managed to do that, but I never had. There's no goal. There's no end goal, you know. Like, and I one of the weird things I found being in this industry for the time I have is that there's a lot of kind of a blueprint that people follow, and that people are looking to become different intentions maybe than I did, and that's not bad or good. It's just kind of the nature of the way people are. For me, I've always thought the best records, the things that really resonate with me,
of course,
are things I like that have been fretted over and really cared about. And that's kind of where I come from. Like, that's kind of the way I approach it. Everything else is a real bonus, you know.
So with no expectations and no kind of goals, and you're on this path that's probably met your expectations already. You're like way above.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
What's the finishing line look like for you?
There isn't one.
Not at all.
I think it ends when we run out of ideas, and or life becomes too much in the way. You know? And I think that's, to me, that feels very natural, and it feels very I've always been a student of kind of art, really, with that stuff, and I kind of see it as that. Like, I kind of see it as an art project. I would love Creeper to do great. Of course I would. I root for us, of course, but I'm not betting against myself. But at the same time, I think the most important thing to keep in focus, the way all the best bands ruin their band is when they stop thinking about what they're making and start thinking about making it. And that's not me. Like, I never found that. Like, that doesn't resonate with me.
Dude, I've genuinely, I'm just saying this now, I've done 357 episodes. I want to talk to you for 2 hours. I'm like, I'm looking here, I'm like, you inspire me. I'm talking to you and I'm like, you're so fucking sincere and so real. And I do interviews all day, and I sometimes think, and it's not a disrespect to other bands, but sometimes they say the things that the audience want to hear. You're so fucking to the point and saying how it is. It's fucking really rare, man. It's like, it feels emotional because you're so just in the moment, and I think a lot of bands lose touch of that. And I wonder now, like, with yourself, you started out wanting to hide from it, and now you're in the limelight. I think this will open doors for you to now go back on yourself and do your films, do short movies, do directing, because you'll have the ideas and the contacts and the path that you've built to just kind of elevate that. I can see you doing your own film, a short story. Well,
it's been, like when I was younger, I used to write these little musicals, when I was really young, and I've written another one recently, like it's just something I've been working on kind of in the shadows a little bit. But the thing about Creeper is it kind of it allows me to do some of those things in a different way. There's a big Creeper's so much more than 6 people. There's my girlfriend who originally came in before we were together as an actress in a music video, like concept record we were making. She's been with us since the start, and she does all the makeup for the dancers and everything. But we have Harry, who does our photos. He's a visual artist more than a photographer. Like, there's a lot of people around us, and we try to operate Creeper in a similar sort of way, where it's more than just one guy living.
I don't want to use the word brand because I hate the word brand because it makes me think of like Adidas and Nike and all this with like, but you're like this product of a huge scale. So the artwork is very, that's Creeper. The stage setup, the lighting, everything that comes with it is part of it. Like you see with Tool, like you see with bands like Metallica now, you associate it as not just a band, but the imagery, the posters, everything else. And I think with your creativity and the way your mind works, and there is no kind of top of the roof for you to hit, you could go to fucking anywhere you want now.
And that's always been the fun of it, is that like it kind of it rolls on, where like in the past you made 3 very different albums that were very different, and like at the time when we first changed sound drastically, it was very polarizing. But all the fun of it is keeping people guessing and doing your own thing and owning your creativity and being an artist to a ruthless degree, and so a lot of the stuff for us it's kind of like it's fun knowing that it's limitless in terms of creativity. I don't ever really think about the career ramifications because it's really not that interesting to me. Like when we started, I found ways to make money, like doing sales or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
But like I would much rather keep it something pure and something that I'm proud of, rather than just go, okay, so how can this reach the next step? I like that's really not for me to say, and it's not the artist's place. It's disgusting almost, to think of it that way. For me, it's about keeping what I'm doing the most close to my chest as I can.
We've got literally 1 minute left. What I want to say now is please fucking come back on this podcast for an hour and talk, because I just want to get into your brain and talk more and more. But what I do to end this episode is I ask the guest to choose a song. You can have any song in the world that means a lot to you, but after our interview's done today, Mark and me with Creeper, there's a song played. I'm putting you on the spot. What's a song that means a lot to you personally that you want to be played?
The song Treaty by Leonard Cohen.
Oh my God, Leonard Cohen is the poet.
Yeah, he's the best. And he spent so long writing his lyrics all the time.
Yeah.
Fretting over them, and it took years and years to produce. But I think the reprise on You Want It Darker of Treaty, I think, is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. So I choose that.
Man, I'm so grateful for you coming on, and I genuinely absolutely love this, and I'm so like, I just want to talk more. So let's make it happen, okay?
Yeah, I would love that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.